New fight over the city budget that could push back plans to renovate the SDCCU stadium site. Local casinos gearing up to reopen against the advice of county health officials, how the casinos say they are preparing for visitors. And what's being done to get firefighters ready for wildfire season while staying safe during the pandemic. 10 News Midday starts now.
Live from the Scripps Studios, this is 10 News.
And welcome to 10 News Midday. So good to have you with us. I'm Jim Patton, and I am joined remotely by my co-anchor Virginia Cha and 10 News meteorologist Megan Perry. So good to see both of you, and we will be hearing from both of you in just a moment. First, let's take a look at some of this morning's headlines. 117 new cases reported yesterday out of more than 3,500 tests. Now, that number of tests, a big jump from the last 2 days, but still about 1,700 shy of the county's daily goal. And in an hour, we are going to hear from Governor Newsom on his budget proposal, and we're expecting big cuts to make up for massive losses in revenue. One of them, the governor reportedly going to issue a 10% pay cut to state workers. Schools also bracing for cuts. More on that in just a moment. Meanwhile, the city of San Diego preparing to look at its own budget, factoring in the financial impact the coronavirus has had on the economy. SDSU is raising concerns about the future of the Mission Valley site. 10 News reporter Marie Coronel breaks down the issue.
SDSU says in order to meet their timeline of a 2022 opening, the City Council needs to take up the Mission Valley Stadium issue at their next council meeting. But Council member Barbara Bry says that's likely not going to happen. In this statement to 10 News, Council President Barbara Bry says this item isn't even on the May 19th City Council agenda, saying in part, the mayor and city attorney owe the City Council and the public an explanation as to why this agreement can't be considered in public session on the date previously promised. She adds SDSU has complied with all the requirements that were asked. In March, the State Board of Trustees approved SDSU's plans for the Mission Valley Stadium, giving the university the green light to begin preparing for construction of a 35,000 capacity stadium, eventually leading to a Mission Valley campus. But the city and the university's negotiation team has not been able to come to terms on buying the land, and the university had planned on discussing this issue next week.
I can't tell you why the PSA isn't going before the council next week, but I can tell you that the financial uncertainties that every entity in the state is now facing make the perils of not closing this deal much more real.
We have reached out to the mayor and the city attorney regarding the concerns that this issue isn't on the agenda. We're still waiting to hear back from them. From SDSU, Marie Cornell, 10 News.
Well, county leaders are opposed to plans by some local casinos to reopen next week, saying that could jeopardize public health. Now, both the Ajas and Sycuan casinos announced they plan to reopen next week with safety precautions in place. Sycuan says that includes temperature checks, turning off some slot machines, and closing the pool and buffet. They say they told the county about it on Friday and didn't get a response. Well, yesterday, County Public Health Officer Dr. Wilma Wooten gave a stern rebuttal.
We do not agree with the reopening. I think I cannot be more clear than that. And we will work through CDC to determine if we can address the issue further to prevent the openings on May 18th.
The casinos say because they are on tribal land, the county has no jurisdiction over them when it comes to health orders. Well, this pandemic will create extra challenges during this wildfire season for firefighters as well as San Diegans affected by any fire. 10 News reporter Jared Aarons tells us CAL FIRE and the Red Cross are already making changes, and they say you should too.
Fighting California's biggest wildfires takes a small army of people. Keeping them safe from the fires and the coronavirus will take some extra effort from CAL FIRE.
It certainly adds another layer of challenges.
The state agency already has a plan in place. It includes more tents and sleeping trailers for firefighters on the front lines, fewer office personnel in the field, and changes to food services.
We have had the open salad bars and the open feeding areas in the past. That stuff we're going to start to see go away. We're going to see it be a lot more compartmentalized and a lot safer so that there's less hands touching, less potential chance for exposure.
But it won't change the number of firefighters assigned. CAL FIRE says they will still be aggressive in getting fires contained quickly.
It is going to take more resources to be able to spread out those groups. It's going to take more technology, but we have all that. We've done this type of thing before. We're going to be able to adapt and overcome.
Adapting is the key for the Red Cross as well. They plan to house evacuees in hotels or dorms instead of group shelters and change the way they do outreach to people who need help.
We've shifted that direct contact, showing up and providing hugs and support directly to people, to providing those services virtually.
Both CAL FIRE and the Red Cross say it will take everybody's effort to stay safe this summer, and that starts now by clearing the brush around your home, revising your family's emergency plan to include coronavirus precautions, and adding things like masks and hand sanitizer to your emergency kits. Jared Aarons, 10 News.
We are getting a better sense of what classes will be like once school reopens. Now, the state superintendent is proposing staggered sessions. Under the plan, students could be split into 2 sessions, one morning, one afternoon. That would limit the number of people on campus, and it would keep the class sizes smaller so people can practice social distancing. But some parents say those changes will cause problems.
Try and get my son off to school while I'm at work is going to be absolutely crazy for us.
There is also talk of some schools offering summer school to bridge the gap. The schools will also have to deal with budget issues. Last week, the governor announced the state is down $54 billion in revenue because of the pandemic. And that means K through 12 and community colleges will likely lose $18 billion in the state's minimum funding guarantee. We are expecting more details during the governor's news conference at noon today, and you can watch that live right here on ABC 10 or on your app or your favorite streaming device. Jim?
Virginia, at least 47 states have started the process of reopening, and more will follow suit today. ABC's Zachary Quiche has more on that, as well as the groundbreaking ruling overnight on the legality of stay-at-home orders.
With the number of confirmed deaths linked to coronavirus creeping towards 85,000 nationwide, there is growing dissent about how the country should open. This was the scene last night in Wisconsin, where the state Supreme Court overturned the governor's extended stay-at-home orders, calling the restrictions unconstitutional and unenforceable. Within hours, some bars and restaurants were reopened with no restrictions. In Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer has been the target of attacks from President Trump and protest over stay-at-home orders. Today, demonstrators taking to the streets in Lansing.
If people are going to come down and demonstrate, do it in a responsible way.
Days ago, the nation's leading expert on infectious disease, Dr. Anthony Fauci, expressed concerns over reopening too quickly. The president telling reporters he was surprised by Fauci's comments.
I was surprised by his answer, actually, because, it's just, to me, it's not an acceptable answer, especially when it comes to schools. Oh, I think they should open the schools, absolutely. I think they should. I don't consider our country coming back if the schools are closed.
Los Angeles County beaches are starting to reopen with restrictions, but officials say schools in the state will open on a case-by-case basis.
I want to be clear that we are not anticipating a common opening across school districts or a mandate for when school districts open.
However, Timothy White, Chancellor of California State Schools, the nation's largest public university system, announced in-person classes will not return to campus in the fall. More than 500,000 Cal State students will take courses online.
Our decisions really are in the best interest of our students because we wanted them to make progress to degree in this COVID-19 era, which sadly is going to persist throughout this next academic year. So we're preparing essentially for the worst and in hoping for the best.
Part of the pressure to reopen is related to the economy. More than 3 million more Americans filed unemployment claims last week. More than 36 million Americans have lost jobs due to the pandemic, creating the highest unemployment rate since the Great Depression. Zachary Quiche, ABC News, New York.
New today, another staple of the San Diego event calendar, calling it off. The OB Chili Cook-Off pushed to next year. The event attracts tens of thousands of people and was scheduled to take place June 25th. Organizers say they're canceling this year's event out of an abundance of caution, and this comes on the heels of other cancellations, including Big Bay Boom and Comic-Con. A new study shedding some new light on how the coronavirus spreads among house cats, and how a local veteran and entrepreneur is switching gears to help during the pandemic.
And a fair weather day with continued warming into the weekend. I'll pinpoint when we're going to see 80s for our inland neighborhoods.